What if the freedom you've been sold is just a prettier kind of prison? You scroll, you choose, you consume everything at your fingertips, yet something still feels off. Not wrong, just hollow. A quiet, persistent unease hums beneath the noise of your life, like a background frequency you've grown too used to hearing. It's not chaos that binds you, it's comfort, not chains, but convenience. You're not trapped behind bars, you're cradled in a velvet cage, a beautiful one, curated, addictive, one that sings you to sleep while your soul quietly suffocates. And the most dangerous part? You almost believe this is freedom, but your higher self knows better. That dissonance you feel, it's not failure, it's the awakening. And if these words found their way to you now, in this exact moment, understand it's not by chance, it's alignment. A whisper from beyond the noise, a ripple across the illusion, reaching your frequency to say wake up. If this truth stirs something within you, let the universe know you're listening. Drop a 777 in the comments. Like this message to anchor your remembrance. Subscribe to join the ones who are choosing to unplug from the dream. The signal has been sent. And you were never meant to stay asleep. They have sold you a grand and beautiful lie, a shimmering, seductive illusion of freedom. This manufactured freedom is defined by an endless parade of products to buy, an infinite library of screens to watch, and a galaxy of applications to scroll through, each one a tiny, digital pacifier for the soul. They have taught you to believe that more options equal more power, that the ability to choose between 100 nearly identical brands of the same product is the ultimate hallmark of a liberated, modern individual. But you, in your quietest moments, have felt the profound and aching truth, haven't you? You have felt that gnawing emptiness that inevitably follows the fleeting chemical thrill of a new purchase. You have heard the hollow, lonely echo that rings in your spirit after a multi-season binge watch has concluded. You have felt the deep, pixelated fatigue that settles into your very bones after hours of mindless, almost involuntary, swiping. This is not the frequency of freedom. It is a masterfully designed, system-wide program of sedation. It is a form of spiritual amnesia, a comfortable coma that keeps you just entertained enough, just stimulated enough, to forget the vast, untamed, and infinitely powerful wilderness of your own inner world. It is a slow, gentle suffocation, disguised as the very breath of liberty, a cage with invisible, shimmering bars painted in the most vibrant and alluring colors of progress and convenience. What if you were to consider, just for a moment, that the very definition of freedom you have been fed from birth was never ever intended to set you free, but was in fact designed to chain you more effectively, more subtly, and more completely than any iron shackle ever could? This is the subtle, pervasive tyranny that the philosopher Herbert Marcuse screamed about, not with the chaotic rage of a revolutionary, but with the chilling, undeniable clarity of a prophet who had seen behind the curtain. He perceived the tectonic shift in the mechanics of control. He understood that the old, crude forms of oppression, the ones with uniformed soldiers, cold prison cells, and the overt threat of brute force were becoming inefficient, almost archaic. Why bother to rule with a heavy iron fist when you can rule with a gentle, guiding hand that expertly leads the masses into a comfortable, consumer-driven stupor? Modern society, he warned with profound urgency, no longer needs to break your spirit. It simply needs to endlessly distract it. It doesn't crush you, it seduces you with the promise of pleasure. It captivates you with the allure of novelty, and it masterfully, almost invisibly, trains you to not only accept, but to fall deeply in love with your own confinement. Take a moment and think about the texture of your own life right now. You are not pursued by guards. You are not bound by physical chains. You are simply comfortable. You are endlessly entertained, conveniently numbed, kept so perpetually busy, choosing from a pre-approved, carefully curated menu of distractions that you never ever stop to ask the most critical, most world-shattering question of all: who built this menu? Who designed these choices? Who profits, not just financially but energetically, from your endless, distracted, and ultimately unfulfilling consumption? They label this relentless circular cycle of wanting and getting progress. They proudly call this dizzying ocean of nearly identical, meaningless options choice. But Herbert Marcuse gave this phenomenon a far more accurate, more chilling, and more spiritually precise name: repressive tolerance. It is a clever, almost diabolical trick, a magic show where the system appears to tolerate everything, to be open to all forms of expression. Every opinion can be posted, every protest can be turned into a hashtag, and every form of genuine rebellion can be swiftly absorbed, repackaged, marketed, and sold back to you as a fashionable t-shirt, a viral video trend, or a branded lifestyle. Dissent is not only permitted, but is often encouraged, so long as it remains safely within the designated, system-approved playground. You are granted the illusion of being allowed to say anything you want, under one silent, non-negotiable condition, that you ultimately change nothing of substance. You are free to rage against the machine, as long as you do it on a device that the machine itself sold you, using a platform the machine owns, to an audience that the machine has algorithmically curated for you. This is the brutal, invisible genius of modern control. The system no longer needs to silence you, it simply gives you a million shiny megaphones that are all secretly connected to the same perfectly soundproofed room. And here we arrive at the most heartbreaking part of this divine tragedy. You are not just a passive victim of this pervasive lie. You are, and have been, an active and often enthusiastic participant. Every post you craft, every filter you apply, every mindless swipe you make, every like you give, every desperate chase for digital status, every single purchase of something you don't truly need to impress people you don't even really know is a conscious or unconscious vote. It is a small but powerful vote to uphold the shimmering, hollow illusion. You are not just living within what Marcuse so aptly called a one-dimensional reality. You are actively helping to build and reinforce its walls, brick by digital brick, post by numbing post. This is a reality where your deepest, most sacred thoughts, your most authentic, raw emotions, and even your most passionate, heartfelt acts of rebellion are scooped up by the system's massive, invisible net, neatly categorized, algorithmically analyzed, and then, with breathtaking efficiency, sold back to you as a new product to consume, a new identity to adopt, a new distraction to chase. Your authentic rebellion is transformed into a marketable brand. Your profound spiritual seeking is flattened into a superficial wellness trend. Your deep human desire for genuine connection is channeled into a social media platform designed to addict and isolate. The system, like a black hole, absorbs all genuine light and reflects back only a polished, hollow, artificial version of it. And we, in our collective spiritual slumber, have been conditioned to accept this flickering mirage as the true sun. But what if you stopped? What if you truly, consciously, with the full force of your sovereign will, stopped playing along? What if you finally, completely, and irrevocably realize that this vast, complex system does not care in the slightest if you speak out, as long as you never, ever, under any circumstances, stop consuming? Because that, and only that, is the real currency. That is the lifeblood, the energy that fuels the entire elaborate illusion. Your attention, your focus, your desire, your very presence, these are not trivial disposable things. They are your most sacred, most powerful assets. They are the currency of your soul. And for your entire life, you have been expertly taught, conditioned, and trained to give them away for free, to scatter them carelessly across a digital landscape meticulously designed to keep you fragmented, anxious, and spiritually weak. The pervasive lie they have been selling you day in and day out is that you are free. But the deeper, more resonant truth, the one your own soul is desperately trying to whisper to you right now, is that you are simply just distracted enough not to notice the bars of the cage. You are just comfortable enough not to test the true strength of the locks on the door. The most powerful and effective form of control, the kind of control that truly matters in the grand scheme of your soul's journey, is not brutal or loud. It is exquisitely subtle. It is deeply internalized. It is so completely normalized that it becomes invisible. And it takes its deepest root in your psyche the very moment you begin to mistakenly believe that the desires planted in your mind by this vast external system are, in fact, your own. Ask yourself, in the sacred, honest silence of your own heart, are these desires truly, authentically your own? Did you consciously and sovereignly choose to want the latest phone? Or were you expertly and relentlessly nudged toward it by a non-stop, 24/7 stream of slick, psychologically optimized marketing, a constant barrage of dopamine-triggering notifications, and a carefully engineered wave of social proof designed to look completely organic and spontaneous? Did you choose your life's ambitions from the infinite, unique well of your own soul's purpose? Or did society hand you a pre-printed, laminated checklist at birth: the right prestigious school, the right high-status job, the right socially acceptable partner, the right impressive house, and calmly say, "Here, this is what a successful and meaningful life looks like. Now go chase it. Everyone else is." This, you must understand, isn't an oppression with physical chains. It is a far more advanced form of consensual control. You implicitly agree to it every single day, with every distracted click and every mindless purchase, because they have made the cage feel so incredibly familiar, so deeply comfortable, so endlessly exciting. But that excitement is a manufactured fever, a temporary high, not a genuine sign of a soul that is truly, vibrantly alive. The philosopher Marcuse profoundly understood that modern capitalism doesn't just manipulate the economy. Its true, unparalleled masterpiece is the industrial-scale manufacturing of consciousness itself. It doesn't just sell you things, it sells you who to be. It shapes how you think, what you should value, and who you are supposed to believe you are. And once that has happened, once the system's complex and subtle programming has been successfully installed in the operating system of your own mind, you no longer perceive it as something external to you. With chilling efficiency, it becomes you. It intertwines with your identity. You find yourself defending it. You begin to justify it. You may even find yourself fighting others who dare to question it, because when your entire sense of self, your very identity, is built upon the very things that are, in reality, enslaving you, any threat to the system feels like a direct, deeply personal and existential threat to you. Now, for just a moment, please pause. Let that truth sink deep into your being. Feel the profound weight and the liberating truth of it. When was the last time you were truly, genuinely bored? Not distracted, not entertained, not stimulated, just still? It's an incredibly rare state of being in the modern world, isn't it? And you must realize that this is absolutely 100% intentional. Because it is in that sacred stillness, in that potent, creative void, that genuine clarity begins to breed. And clarity is the single most dangerous and subversive substance in a world that is fundamentally built on keeping you sedated, distracted, and perpetually confused. You were taught from a young age to fear silence, to relentlessly fill every single empty moment with noise, with content, with productivity, with something, anything at all, to keep the deeper, more unsettling questions of the soul at bay. But the profound truth is this: silence is the sacred space where your soul's true voice echoes the loudest. It is the vast, empty canvas upon which your authentic self can finally, after a lifetime of waiting, begin to paint its own masterpiece. The pervasive lie they have been relentlessly selling you is that your ultimate fulfillment, your true happiness, lies out there somewhere in the next thing you buy, the next video you watch, the next achievement you unlock, the next identity you upgrade to. But Marcuse, and indeed every great spiritual teacher and mystic throughout all of human history, knew the real truth. They courageously flipped that entire narrative on its head. They understood with absolute certainty that true liberation, true alignment, and true lasting fulfillment comes not from acquiring more on the outside, but from becoming more aware on the inside. True and lasting liberation begins the very moment you become aware. Aware of how your mind was systematically shaped, aware of how your desires were meticulously designed and implanted, aware of how you were slowly, expertly, and almost imperceptibly turned into a predictable, manageable consumer instead of an unpredictable, sovereign, and divinely free human being. And here we come to the bitter, beautiful irony of this sacred awakening journey. The more aware you become, the more profoundly isolated you might initially feel. Because once you truly start to see through the grand, collective illusion, it becomes utterly impossible to unsee it. You will find yourself at a party, and all you will be able to hear is the constant, meaningless buzz of surface talk, the sterile exchange of pre-programmed, socially approved scripts. You will scroll through your online feeds, and it will all begin to look like the same, recycled, soulless, and meaningless noise. You will walk into a vast, brightly lit shopping mall, and suddenly, it will feel less like a vibrant place of choice and more like a cold, silent temple of obedience, a massive, sterile cathedral dedicated to the hollow worship of the superficial. To awaken in a world that is deeply and comfortably sedated can at times feel like a terrifying form of madness. But you must understand this with every fiber of your being. It is not madness. It is the glorious, breathtaking dawn of your own clarity. And clarity in a system that fundamentally thrives on mass confusion and distraction is the single most revolutionary act you can possibly perform. We so often fall into the trap of believing that rebellion must be loud and aggressive. We are conditioned to think it means unbridled rage, public marching, angry shouting, and the violent burning down of external structures. But Herbert Marcuse introduced a concept that was far more radical, far more subtle, and ultimately far more powerful. He believed, as do I, that the ultimate and most effective form of resistance is to completely and utterly reclaim your inner world. Reclaim how you think, reclaim what you truly value. Reclaim your sacred attention from the endless, draining scroll. Reclaim your divine imagination from the narrow, restrictive limits they handed you at your birth. Because here is the profound secret they never, ever want you to fully grasp. If your thoughts are not authentically your own, your actions can never be. And if your actions are not truly your own, then neither is your life. This is the deeper reason why our modern society is so utterly obsessed with keeping you perpetually busy. Not productive in a meaningful way, but just busy. Busy enough that you never have a moment to reflect. Busy enough that you never have the space to question. Busy enough that you never have the silence to feel that quiet, persistent ache in your heart that whispers again and again, something is profoundly wrong here. That ache, that quiet, sacred discomfort that is the sound of your soul knocking. It is not knocking because you are broken, it is knocking because you are finally, gloriously waking up. And this system, this society, does not want awake, sovereign individuals. It wants, and desperately needs, functioning, predictable sleepwalkers. But the very moment you stop chasing what they relentlessly told you to want, the moment you consciously pause long enough to ask yourself, who would I be without all of this constant external noise? That is the precise moment when everything in your reality begins to fundamentally and irrevocably change. You stop simply reacting and you start consciously creating. You stop endlessly performing for an unseen audience and you start simply, powerfully being. And please understand, this is not just abstract spiritual talk. It is the most practical, most tangible, and most powerful act of rebellion you will ever experience. The entire system begins to lose its powerful grip on you the very moment you realize that you were never truly lost, but just expertly and systematically distracted. There is a deep and important reason why this kind of truth feels so deeply uncomfortable when you first encounter it. It's because it doesn't give you a convenient, external villain to blame. It doesn't offer you a quick, easy, one-size-fits-all fix. It quietly, gently, and with profound respect hands the ultimate responsibility for your life, your energy, and your focus right back to you. And that sacred responsibility, real, authentic, spiritual responsibility, is a heavy, beautiful burden. It is so much easier, so much more comfortable in the short term to stay distracted, to keep consuming, to continue outsourcing your thoughts, your opinions, and even your core personality to whatever happens to be trending that day. But the longer you continue to do that, the more your precious, irreplaceable life becomes something that just happens to you. You react, you cope, you numb, you survive, but you don't truly live. Not really. Not in the deep, resonant, and expansive way that your soul is desperately yearning for you to. Herbert Marcuse believed, with every fiber of his being, that the single most revolutionary thing a person could do in this modern age was to become fully, authentically human again. Not a replaceable cog in a massive machine, not a mindless consumer unit, not a walking, talking algorithm whose preferences have been perfectly tailored by advertising data, but a real, grounded, gloriously and beautifully unpredictable human being who consciously chooses what to think, who sovereignly chooses what to value, and who has the inner strength to choose when to say a clear and resounding no. Not because it's edgy, not because it's cool, but because a deep, unshakable, and sacred part of you knows, with absolute certainty, this is not freedom, this is not truth. And the moment you begin to not just hear, but to truly, deeply listen to that quiet, inner voice, you start the sacred process of reclaiming your own mind. Not in a loud, aggressive, or confrontational way, but in quiet, subtle, and completely irreversible ways. You find yourself spending less time reacting to the world and more time reflecting on your own being. You stop needing more things from the outside, and you start needing more reality from the inside. You begin to see through the constant noise, the endless performance, and the manufactured, fake urgency of it all. You begin to unplug, not your devices, but your very consciousness from the matrix of distraction. And when enough people begin to do that, the collective lie, the great illusion, begins to crack and crumble. Because systems of control like this don't collapse from a frontal assault from the outside in. They dissolve, gently and inevitably, from the inside out when enough people simply stop feeding them with their unconscious scattered energy. If any part of this sacred message has struck a deep, resonant nerve within you, I implore you, do not just sit with it. Do something small, but profoundly real. Take that tiny, flickering spark of awareness and consciously turn it into a daily habit. Take that nagging feeling of discomfort and lovingly transform it into a powerful, driving curiosity. Take that inner whisper and amplify it, day by day, until it becomes a steady, roaring, internal fire. And here is something that most people in the midst of this process miss. Waking up does not necessarily make your life easier, at least not at first. In many ways, it can actually feel much harder, because now you see it all with painful clarity. You see how often people around you speak without thinking. You notice with a new sensitivity how entertainment is used as a powerful anesthetic to avoid genuine feeling. You realize, perhaps with a touch of grief, how much of your own past was driven by borrowed beliefs, by ideas you never truly chose, by values you never deeply questioned, and by reactive emotions that were never ever truly yours. But here, right here, is the strange, paradoxical, and profound beauty of it all. Once you are truly awake, you stop looking for meaning in what is popular or trending. You stop desperately chasing validation from other people who are, in their own way, just as lost as you once were. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to approve of your own healing and your own truth. Instead, you begin the sacred work of building something deep and unshakable internally. A kind of quiet, centered confidence that doesn't need to be seen by anyone else to exist. You begin to find profound peace in ordinary simplicity, deep joy in moments of pure silence, and a powerful sense of purpose in just being present. And the very things that once felt boring and mundane now begin to feel like the purest form of freedom. The spaces that once felt empty and lonely now become sacred and full. You no longer need to chase life, you simply feel it in all its raw, unfiltered glory. Every small, quiet moment becomes a divine signal. Every conscious choice becomes a powerful vote for the person you are choosing to become. And that, right there, is where the great lie of modern society begins to lose its tenacious grip on your soul. Because once you have tasted what it is truly like to move through this world with intention, without being constantly pulled and manipulated in every direction, you will never ever want to go back. You will become a person that others look at and say, I don't know what it is about them, but they are different. Not louder, not better, just free. And that is the part they never tell you. That is the secret. That true freedom has absolutely nothing to do with how much you have or what you achieve. It has everything, absolutely everything, to do with how clearly you are able to see. So, if you find yourself on this sacred path, if you feel something deep inside you shifting, please know this with all your heart. You are not broken, you are not going crazy. You are simply, finally, becoming real. And the more real you become, the more you will naturally and effortlessly let go of the lies that once bound you. Not through force, not through struggle, but through the gentle, unwavering power of your own clarity. Let that be your quiet, powerful, and ultimate rebellion.